Hi, welcome back to I Love the Library, and I'm so sad to tell you that coming up today is our last segment of an interview with Julie Klassen, the Minnesota historical novel author that came to the Detroit Lakes Library this spring. And for those of you who didn't get to see her in person, please enjoy this last installment of Raina's interview with her.
No, you didn't start off your career writing.
Correct.
What did you do before this?
Well, I had a wise counselor when I went to college. He said, "That's nice. You like to write your little stories, but you're going to need to have a real job someday." So he directed me to get a degree in advertising, which is still creative and has some writing, but sure enough, I could get a job. And so I worked in advertising and marketing, and then eventually I worked in editing, which was a great training ground for someone who secretly wanted to be a writer. So I've had a couple different careers, and really loved the editing because it was, working with not only other editors, but so many different authors and helping them and traveling with them and working on their books. So that was just a wonderful blessing and really helped me, I think, get where I am today.
Very cool. Do you have a favorite of, all of them are my favorites, but I do really enjoy The Girl in the Gatehouse and Maid at Fairborn Hall. I've read all of your books multiple times.
Oh, that's so nice.
And I listen to the audiobooks, and after I read them.
I'm so glad you mentioned them, because I would just say, if you like audiobooks, try them, because you would not want to listen to my shoddy British accent for 15 hours. But thankfully they hire real British actors who perform them and don't just do one accent. They do the upper class accent and the servants. They're
really good,
aren't they? I think so.
Do you ever get to be a part of that, to see them record it? Or
I've never gotten to see any of the recording. I have been asked a few times who I wanted to record something, if they were once I wanted to mail, because it was a very male-oriented story, and so I did ask for a certain gentleman to read one of them, but otherwise, no, I don't get to. I do listen to them all when they're done, because I do enjoy
they're very good.
hearing what they were. But you started to ask me a question.
Yes. Do you have a favorite of your books?
You mentioned The Girl in the Gatehouse, and for years I would have said that was my favorite as well, partly because the main character is a secret writer, which I maybe was for many years, kind of writing without people knowing it was me. And then some of the characters, the secondary characters, just really kind of came to life for me. Martin and Dixon, and I just fell in love with them, which is an odd thing to say, but I really did. So I really do love The Girl in the Gatehouse. Plus it has probably the most nods to Jane Austen, which I'm obviously a huge fan of hers. But I also really enjoyed writing The Secret of Pembroke Park, which has a little more of that mystery element, which I really am intrigued by. And my brain loves to figure out a puzzle and what's going on. So that one, I think, which also won the Minnesota Book Award, I really like that one as well. So it's kind of a toss-up between those two.
Sure. And do you ever get to have a say on the covers of the books? Because I'm telling you, I do enjoy the covers of books, because then I can see, maybe the setting, if it's supposed to be kind of similar to where it's taking place. And
yeah, the covers are probably, thankfully, I have very little to do with them, because I think most authors, if we were designing the covers, we would be so focused on every detail. It has to have this color and this, and a book cover's job is to stop you, to make you go, ooh, I want to pick this up, and hopefully read the back cover copy, and if that intrigues you, you will check it out at your library or buy it. So not a whole lot of input. They do ask authors ahead of time, what's your story about? Because I don't know if you know, but publishing is a very long lead time business. So they are creating the covers for books I haven't written yet. And so they do have to ask the authors, what's the story about? But they're getting a couple paragraphs. It's not like they're reading the book and coming up with a cover. They're having to rely on the author to say, here's what the main character looks like, here's what he or she might be wearing, here are some ideas of what the background might be. When we had this idea for Ivy Cottage, I sent them some images of ivy-covered cottages that I had seen and liked. So I do provide input up front, and then they kind of go off and figure it out from there. And Bethany House, who's my publisher, they really invest a lot in the covers because they think they're so important. So they actually hire models for the most of the time, professional models. They use a professional photography studio. And they really spent a lot of time creating them. Most of the backgrounds are put in digitally afterwards. They don't go to England to shoot these, and that'd be nice. But they do spend
But
a
the
lot.
clothes too, I've noticed.
Yeah,
are, you know,
they rent a lot of the costumes if they can, and sometimes, like in this case, they actually have the gowns made by a historical seamstress for the cover. So I've seen them in person as well. So they go to a lot of expense, and I think they're beautiful too. A woman named Jennifer Parker gets all the credit, and I get zero. So I can say that she has designed, I think, all of them so far.
Well, and you also mentioned that you do like to go and overseas and visit, and you did a trip with fans, I believe, right?
Yes.
Can you tell everybody about that?
Sure, I would love to, because England is my favorite topic pretty much after books. So I have been to England 5 times now, which is great. I kind of jokingly say that's the real reason I write, is to finally justify my long-held desire to go to England. Because when I first started writing, I had never been. But then this last, I guess it was probably about a year and a half ago or so, I was asked to host a group trip for readers or people who would just love to travel to England and wouldn't be necessarily brave enough to do it on their own. So in 2017, I led my first group trip. I think there were 39 of us all together who flew over there, people from all over the country. And we toured not only some places related to my books, like we went to the village that's a model for Ivy Hill, but we also just went to some amazing places that you have to stop at when you're in England, like the Cotswolds area, like Bath, London, several other places as well. So it was a really good experience. And what I really liked about it is that several of the people who were on the trip would not have probably gone to England without that opportunity, because they're either unfamiliar with traveling, or the woman who designs all my book covers, for example, got to go, and she's always wanted to go, and so she went, and so it was just such a thrill to get to be there when they saw England for the first time as well. So it was so good that we're going to do it one more time. I think in 2019 we're going to offer one more trip and repeat the experience one more time.
Very cool.
Thanks for asking.
Yes, thank you for being joining us today,
Oh, my
and for
pleasure.
writing your books. They really are really great, and I hope you guys all can pick one up, read it, and I know you'll fall in love with it. So thank you, Julie,
Great. Thank
very
you,
much.
Raina.
Well, that wraps up our 4-part interview with author Julie Klassen. At the Detroit Lakes Public Library, we try very hard to bring in authors that everyone wants to hear. So keep an eye on what's going on at the library, and come on in and check it out.